Hi there, this is Miss Kaitlin from Febo Kids Art Academy and welcome to another December Daily Draw. Today we're on day 19 and we are going to be creating a picture of Christmas lights, and this kind of can be turned into a card. So we're going to draw it as a daily draw today and we're going to kind of plan out the composition, but you could easily turn this into a really cute Christmas card for somebody that you want to send it to. So for this project, of course, today, just take out a piece of paper, maybe one you'd like to practice this design on. You're also going to need some oil pastels, and I'm going to be using a Sharpie for all of the black outlining that we're going to be doing today, but you could of course use any color that you like. So I'm going to go ahead and get my paper ready. So here it is, and I'm going to draw it with a Sharpie just so that you can see, but of course I want you to draw it with a pencil. So let's start by writing our number at the top. Again, you could turn this into a card, and maybe if you're doing that right now, you can just exclude the number, but if you're doing the daily draw, let's go ahead and draw this at the top. So we're going to draw our box. Again, this is going to be pretty simple, just because there's a lot of things happening in our composition of the daily draw. You're going to need the number 1 and the number 9. You can make these as fancy as you like. I'm going a pretty simple route. Like I said, maybe I'll make the numbers more thick on the sides like that. All right, so for our Christmas lights, let's draw those first. We want them on the top part of our paper today. And we're going to draw the string that they're going to be on. So take your pencil. I'm going to kind of draw my string right about here in this corner. We want it to be a curved line. And we're going to go ahead and draw on some Christmas lights now. Now for a Christmas light, I'll go ahead and draw one right here just so we can practice. I'm going to draw first the part that's connected to the string of the rest of the lights. So that's just going to be kind of like a small rectangle that's going to be attached to that string. And Christmas lights, I mean, there are a lot of different kinds of Christmas lights, but for these, you've probably seen them before. They're really big or they can be small, and they're usually a plastic or glass of some kind. They almost look like teardrop shapes. So what I want you to do is go to one side and draw a curved line out and then up. Same thing, other side out and then up. And before you connect the ends, we want to make sure that it's rounded like this. So you can see it's almost like a teardrop shape, but instead of having like a point at the end, it is more of a curve. So we want these all along the sides of our string here. You're going to see probably some of them get cut off or cropped off the side, like this one over here. If I want to space mine out, maybe I want this much space in between each. I might have to draw just half of it like this, and the rest of it goes off the side of the paper. So you can decide how close you want your Christmas lights to be. I'm going to probably put maybe like an inch or half of an inch in between. So your goal with this is to try and see if you can get them all to be about the same size all the way through. You can see I'm turning the paper to make it easier for myself to draw and to make sure that I feel comfortable when I'm drawing these Christmas lights. I don't want to be uncomfortable as I'm drawing. Now, as we get to the box, of course, if you excluded the box, that means you don't have it on your paper. You can draw the full Christmas light, but since my box is going to be covering some of it, it's going to be overlapped. So I'm going to draw just as much as I can of that Christmas light. And the rest of it will be covered up by the number. All right, so we've got our first row or our first string. Now we're going to have a string of Christmas lights that's a little bit farther behind, but there's still going to be a lot of them on. So let's go ahead and draw the string. Some of it's going to be cut off, or rather behind this row of Christmas lights here. So I'm going to start on this side of my paper and I'm going to draw a really long curved line. Hop over that Christmas light and continue. Now I obviously have a light right here, so I can't go all the way to the edge, but you can kind of see that it's going behind. Now remember, we want to keep these lights at the top of our paper, so we don't want to do another row of these really, really big ones because we have to write Merry Christmas down at the bottom. So what I want you to do is draw the same type of Christmas light, but now they're going to be a little bit smaller. So this is how small I'm drawing mine. Again, kind of about an inch or an inch and a half. So just try your best with this one. Don't add too many because we do have to color them all in. and add some shading. Try and space them out as evenly as possible. Now, this is just one type of Christmas light, but maybe after the video, you could draw different kinds of Christmas lights. I really like the ones that look like icicles. I especially love rainbow Christmas lights that look like icicles. I think it kind of makes a house, if you're decorating your house with them, look like a gingerbread house, or as if your house is made out of candy. These ones also kind of give that effect. All right, so there are our lights. If you need more time to draw them, just pause the video and you can continue with that. But now we're gonna write Merry Christmas down at the bottom. You can write this however you want. I'm gonna write it in cursive, as fancy as I can get it, but you can feel free to write this however you like. So just make sure that you have enough space for Merry at the part here and then Christmas down at the bottom. I'm gonna make sure that the M is really big first. Then I'll write an E, an R, another R, and then a really fancy letter Y with a curl on the end. Now, of course, this looks, I actually want to do a little bit more line width and make it even more fancy, but this is kind of just our sketch for now. Then I'll write a really fancy letter C, an H, R, I, S, oh, don't forget to dot the I, T, M, A, S. All right, so we've got all the little parts of our picture ready to go. So now I need to make sure I cross the T. So I'm going to do a really swirly part there. All right, so now we can go ahead and start outlining everything. Now I've already outlined in Sharpie. I'm going to stick with this so you can pause the video and just outline everything with a Sharpie or some kind of dark colored marker. And then after you're done with that, we can go ahead and start talking about building up the line thickness in some areas. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to fill in my number. Anybody who is using the number in their daily draw today, you can go ahead and fill yours in as well. And then I'm actually going to thicken the lines here for the string that the lights are on. Not by much, but I do want them to stand out. I want this line to stand out a little bit more because it is our main subject really, is the Christmas lights as they are dangling through the picture. So I'm taking my Sharpie, I'm trying to keep the thickness the same. Again, if I need to turn my paper, I will. Now, if you have just a regular marker, this might be a little easier for you to thicken those lines. Sharpies, or at least the one that I'm using, is quite thin. So it can be a little tricky to try and get a really thick line like this. So just being very careful. I'm moving a little bit fast, but you might want to go slow for this part. Okay, that's all filled in. Now I'm going to fill in the little parts where the lights are connected to the string with the same color. For me, it's my Sharpie. For you, it might be something else. Just being very careful with that. And I have all these teeny tiny little lights down here that I need to do. Now I'm definitely going to use some different line widths for my cursive for Merry Christmas because this looks fine right now, but I think it'll look more interesting if we add in some different thicknesses here and there. So I'm just going to take my Sharpie and in different places where my letters curl around, probably on all the spots where there's like a curve, I am going to add just a little bit more width to that. You can see I'm not trying to get it all the same width again. I want there to be some spots that are thin and some spots that are thick. Now, due to the nature of, again, this Sharpie being quite thin, I am overall going to thicken the letters a little bit. But you can still see I'm focusing on trying to get those different curved areas much thicker than the rest of the letter itself. So this part could take you a little while. It's a whole art form in and of itself to do cursive and calligraphy and learn different ways of doing even typography. It's absolutely stunning work, really. If you've probably seen lots of different types of typography or really beautiful cursive handwriting and signs, especially around this time of year. So I'm just taking my marker again. I'm going to thicken the side of the E. So curl around to the R. Just trying to make sure all of the lines are at least smooth. So again, this part you might need to concentrate a little bit. I think I want this part of the R to be much more thick. I'll move around. Make my way over to the Y. I'll definitely do the bottom of the Y is a little bit thicker. As I curl back around, I'm going to make this part thick for that little curly Q that we did here. And then maybe this part will be the thickest, as it, almost imagining it kind of like a ribbon as it moves and bends around. That's usually what helps me when I'm trying to add in line thickness, especially for letters. So I kind of imagine it like a ribbon, bending around. All right, so there's Mary, all done. You can see now it looks way more interesting. It has a little bit more of a presence on the paper. And I'm going to do the same thing for Christmas down here. Now Christmas is a lot longer of a word, so I'll try to do this as quickly as possible so that you can see what it looks like. I'm definitely going to add a way more line thickness to the back of the C, so that way it really stands out. I'll try and curve that around a little bit more. Try and make that stroke really long. Then we'll move on to the H. Do the top here. Kind of work with the side. All right. Again, being very careful. When you have a really long word, especially one where all the letters are kind of very tightly grouped up, be very careful with how much line width you're adding, because you don't want to add so much line width here. Very, very dark. Otherwise, it will be really difficult to see your letters. It'll just kind of look like a very bold sort of blob. So just be very careful as you're going around and doing this part. Be very thoughtful about where you want to add in line thickness. All right, so I might want to add a little bit here, a bit to the back of the letter T. As I move towards the M, I'm going to have to add some to the top, those curves. And move back down to the letter A. I'm going to have to add some on both sides here. And then I move to the last letter, the S. Now for this little part right here, I can kind of get creative with where I want to put the line thickness. I'm probably going to go a little bit as if I'm copying how I did the letter Y. I'm going to put more thickness on like that last little part, that last curl, maybe a little there, and thicken it up like that. So now you can see that looks way, way more interesting than just that very thin line that we did. All right. Next, we're going to go ahead and move with our oil pastels, and we're going to do a little bit of shading. Now, first, I want us to do our top row of lights with, well, there you go, a little white oil pastel, with a red. Now, we're not going to fill the whole thing in with red. Red is just going to be our darkest color that we're using in this space. All right, so take your red, and what we're going to do is we want all of our shadows to be on the left sides today. So take that red on each of the top Christmas lights, not these little ones on the bottom. And you're just gonna add in a bit of that color. Remember, press hard so that way you fill in any little white spaces as you see. So you want the majority of that side to be like that. You can also take the red oil pastel and do a very thin outline around the side of the right, if you want. So you can see I'm kind of moving almost like in a curve as I am closer to the top. And as I go to the bottom, I kind of thin out that shadow a little bit. I don't want it to be the same thickness all the way around because the light itself is not the same all the way around. Some of that shadow might be kind of hard to get if you have a Christmas light that's cut off on the side of the paper, but that's all right. So just add these in as best as you can, moving around the light. Now, when we move into the next color, this is going to be our medium color that we use. And this is going to be our transition between our shadow and our highlight. The shadow, of course, is where light is unable to hit, which is kind of funny because we are doing a Christmas light. They make light, but still, you'll see shadows on them. So red's going to be our darkest color, and then we're going to use a pink for our medium color because our highlight would be done in white. So when we mix red and white together, that middle color is going to be pink. So take a pink oil pastel and just add that in next to the red. Again, might be a little tricky as you get along these sides here. And then I'll show you how we blend. Now, when you blend with oil pastels, if you're trying to blend two colors together, you always want to use the lighter of the two colors. So we're going to be blending pink and red here in just a moment. So before I tell you which one we're going to use, which oil pastel between pink and red do you think we're going to use to blend between them? If you said pink, you'd be correct. So take your pink oil pastel. Do you see the line where the red and the pink meet? Take your oil pastel, again pressing hard. Just blend over that spot a couple times. And you can see how they start to blend into one another. Now sometimes you might have to pass over that spot a couple of times, and that's okay. So just try your best to get that nice and blended. Now, if your hand starts to hurt at any point using the oil pastel, totally understandable. We are pressing hard for this. So just maybe take a second to stretch your hand, take a moment of rest. Once you're done with that, we can move on into the white. Now, for the white oil pastel, go ahead and take it out. It might be kind of hard to see me apply it here, but I promise you I am. First, fill in all those white spots here. Again, we want them to be filled in. And then, between the two colors, pink and white, we're going to use white to blend because it is the lighter of the two colors. So see that little line where the white and the pink meet? Use the white to blend. Now try not to blend your white color away because we still need that highlight to show all of the parts of shading. So we have the highlight, medium color, and the shadow. We're going to do the same thing for our lights down here, except in green. So take a dark green. This part's going to be a little bit faster because it's a small area. Press hard, fill in, this time the left sides of each light. There we go. Again, if your hand starts to hurt, just make sure you take a moment to pause and stretch your hand. Shake it out if you need to. All right, and then take a medium color. I'm going to use this lighter green. This is kind of small, so you probably won't have to add too much. I'm just adding almost like a line because again, it's such a small area. And then just make sure that it's blended. Again, small area, Just try your best to blend those two colors, the light green and the dark green, pass over it. And then you can take white oil pastel and fill in the highlight. So fill in the highlight completely first on each, and then you can go back and blend the light green and the white together. All right, so that completes the lights for our top and the bottom. If you'd like, you now can use your oil pastels to add in some designs into the background. You can add in little stars, little shine, swirls, and really whatever you like. You could even do hearts all around maybe our Merry Christmas, our lettering that we did, or even into other parts where the lights are. I'm sticking to our main color scheme, which is red and green, especially for this picture. You can add polka dots. You can add little bursts of color. And really whatever else you'd like. Again, you can turn this into a card really easily. So you could do the same design that we made here onto maybe another piece of paper or even a colored paper, because the oil pastel will still show up really, really well. So I hope you had fun today. Remember, you can share your creations with us on our Febo Village Facebook page. I would love to see what you made. We will see you again tomorrow for another daily draw. So bye for now. Have a great rest of your day.